What do you think?
I think we're dead meat. Real dead meat.
You dead meat! Go ahead and laugh, you guys. If I ever find a little bastards that did this, they're dead meat.
Welcome to the Dead Meat Podcast, an extension of the YouTube channel Dead Meat. I'm James.
I'm Chelsea, and we're engaged, and we like to get scared together. This week, we are finally covering The Wicker Man.
You have been wanting to do this for so long.
Yes. I've been wanting to do this since we covered the remake of The Wicker Man, and to get ready for that episode, I watched this original one, and I just fell head over heels in love with it. To the point where I was pissed that we had to cover the sequel.
Yeah.
Or not the remake.
The 2006 Nicolas Cage.
Like, after going and finding this original one and watching it and just realizing, like, it's so fucking good. It is, I mean, it's in my top list of horror movies. It's up there. Like watching it again for this episode just really sealed for me how much I love it. It's just so everything I like in a horror movie, and things I like from other movies that you don't normally get in a horror, such as songs. Movie songs being sung by characters, which is very cool.
This is basically a musical.
It is. You could argue it's a musical.
I would argue it's a musical for sure.
Ever since then, because you didn't watch the original with me, you had
No.
just seen the remake, and even that whole episode, I just remember thinking, fuck, I wish we just were covering this original. I hate talking about this remake. This remake is bullshit. Just, you don't even.
It's a very bad movie.
It's very bad. It's the Nicolas Cage, the bees.
Because we even determined at the end of that podcast, like, it's not worth watching. Just go watch the fun parts online.
Yeah, if you're thinking, oh shit, I've never seen The Wicker Man, the remake. It's supposed to be so funny and so bad it's funny. Just go watch a best of Nicolas Cage montage on YouTube. You don't need to watch.
The rest of it was not worth it, especially because even the version we watched didn't have the iconic line,
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah!
And similar thing happened with this. We watched a version that was missing some stuff that you were really sad was gone.
Yeah, so it's weird how both Wicker Mans have like
Wicker's Man.
Wicker's Men's the remake. The thing everyone knows from it is the bees and his head in that cage and the bees being dumped in there. That's not in the
It's not in the version we watched. I forget now if that's the theatrical cut.
It's something where it's like the theatrical or like there's some, I don't fucking remember, but if you just go and watch the remake of The Wicker Man on like Amazon or you stream it somewhere, it's not gonna have the bees in it.
Yeah,
that's fucked up.
And then we watched this original. We rented it on Amazon, and it was I believe the theatrical cut, which comes in at like 89 minutes, 90 minutes. There are at least two other versions, it sounds like. The director's cut,
I
which
went
is
down this rabbit hole last night.
Yeah, the director's cut, which is 100 minutes, so 10 minutes longer, and then the final cut version, which the director prefers,
it's the preferred vision,
which is the midway, is 95 minutes.
I determined the first time I watched this, I watched the final cut.
Sounds like it, because honestly, the stuff that you showed me, it's that song. What's it called?
Gently Johnny.
Yeah, and that's 4 minutes on its own, so that's most of the difference between the version we watched and the final cut.
Yeah, I think the final cut, that's the biggest thing that is put back in, and I know that's something that the director Robin Hardy was really upset that the studio cut out of the theatrical release.
Gently, 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 Johnny, gently, Johnny, my jingle.
Hell have no fury, like a film nerd realizing the version that they are streaming online is a shitty, like, just cut up version that doesn't have the cool scenes you want to watch with your friends.
Watching the wrong version of a movie
it sucks.
Heartbreaking.
Especially when it was one I'm showing you guys, and it's getting towards the end of this movie. We're in the third act. It's like home run. We're gonna see that fucking Wicker Man, and I'm like, where was that whole song? That should have happened. And I just started panicking, and I started Googling the different edits, and I was so sad.
Well, now you know how I feel when I showed you Mallrats, and it was the director's, cut, which no one should ever watch.
Yeah, it's not good.
No.
It's very boring.
Yes.
You don't gotta add stuff back into that movie.
Sometimes you can leave the stuff out.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But yeah, this movie has I was reading about the really complicated, murky past of this movie's like different versions and its different home releases, and the like, you know, funnily enough for a cult movie, I guess the cult following this movie had, especially just like enthusiasts who, you know, would make copies of it for other people, because it was so hard to get a copy of this movie for a long time. Yeah, because
it's British.
Yeah,
so especially for American audiences, that's going to be a problem in the pre-internet days.
Yeah.
You know, harder to get stuff from overseas. And it's from 1973, which is a while back.
And so British Lion was this film company, and they were all, you know, gung-ho to make Wicker Man, but that company soon was bought out by EMI. And I guess like that buyout happened right as they were about to release Wicker Man, and so then I think they ran into issues with like how do we market this thing, because it's a very weird movie. I think the studio saw, you know, screenings of it, and they were like, we can't sell this. Like a lot of politics too. I was also reading about just what's going on in 70s Britain. Right, you know, it's fun to kind of look at when a movie comes out, what's going on at the time it's released and what's influencing the film, and especially what's causing this film to have so much trouble being marketed and released. Like, why is this film so specifically difficult? We're coming off of a cultural revolution, late 60s, and we're seeing an increased interest in the occult.
They come from all over the world, and some of them asking for help. The majority of them are people asking for initiation. In England, we usually assign some of our witches to answer the letters for us if we can't do it, and then take the person, if they think they're sincere, and talk to them about initiation and bringing them into the Wicca.
Because apparently, and I did not know this until today, in 1951, in Britain specifically, they repealed a law that like forbade witchcraft. It was like this super outdated.
What year was that?
51.
Okay.
I wrote down, I was reading an article about it.
Was it like an old
law? It was from the 1700s, yeah. So they repealed this law. The reason is because, you know, there's kind of this increased like counterculture, and they were like, this law is preventing people from just, you know, harmless shit where, you know, they're not hurting any, as long as you're not exploiting anyone, you can do whatever weird shit you want. And so there's this like atmosphere of this renewed interest in the occult because of this law being repealed, which I thought was so weird. But also in the early 70s, we talked about this a little bit on our episode about moral panics. But in the 70s, we have Mary Whitehouse. That was her name. Mary Whitehouse was this article compared her to Sergeant Howie, who's our main character in The Wicker Man. 1972, Mary Whitehouse goes on a campaign against sex and violence in the media, especially sex. She's very concerned with, She's
not going to like this movie.
No.
Revolutionaries say, across the world, they know the power of the television camera. In fact, I think it was Jerry Rubens who said that the television camera is the revolutionary's first weapon. And I think it's absolutely foolish to assume that those who, for one reason or another, want to change the nature of our society aren't going to use television whenever the opportunity comes to them.
She helps launch this nationwide petition for public decency. In 1973, a petition is presented. They got like 1 million signatures on this thing. Everyone's very concerned about the youth And the influences, especially after this wave of counterculture that all must have been very weird and scary to some people. We saw that in America too, but especially Britain, that leads right up into our video nasties era, which is kind of the 80s of we're making lists of banned films, and we talk more about that in our Moral Panics. But so that's where Wicker Man is getting released to, and we have this studio acquiring British Lion, and they're like reading the room a little bit and thinking, we can't market this. People are very concerned with, like, capital C, concerned about the influence such imagery might have on the country, of like the moral fabric of Britain. I thought that was really interesting.
Yes, and by imagery, she means naked people.
Oh, there's a lot of titties in this.
There's a lot of, I guess it is just boobs.
Yeah,
some butts.
Yeah, definitely butts. I'm trying to remember if in any of the other cuts, I don't think there's any.
Huh. You know what? The movie is so naked that I just imagined that there were dongs in there.
Yeah, it's almost like the nudity in this, because like the fact that we're kind of trying to remember, is there any male nudity in this? It kind of, to me, shows how weird the like gender stuff in this is, because it's almost like this pagan, like mystical idea of like, like blurred lines between gender. Like this isn't like it doesn't feel exploitive.
It's not super sexy.
Yeah, it's very
it's
frank.
More like natural.
It's frank, very frank, like matter of fact nudity.
It's like naturalist.
Yeah, although I get, Britt Eklund and that whole
that's
scene.
the one exception. I mean,
that's supposed
to
be. That's supposed to make you feel.
That is a Bond girl, by the way, from the following years. The Man with the Golden Gun, which of course features Christopher Lee.
He has 3 nipples in that. That's all I know about that movie.
That's all you know.
A third nipple, sir.
We should watch that just so you can see these two.
Just so I can see the nipple.
I think that's one of the better movies.
Oh, really? I was Googling it yesterday. It has like middling reviews. I thought that was interesting.
Well, you know what? I'll say it's probably one of the better Moore movies.
Oh.
I can name at least.
He's the Bond who's kind of old looking, right?
The last movie he's in.
Him with Grace Jones,
yes,
right?
Yes,
yeah, okay, that's another thing I know about James Bond.
Yeah.
I'm a big Grace Jones fan. But yeah, so basically what happens to those 4 movies after they shoot it, and by the way, Christopher Lee is a big reason this movie got made. Like he is a driving force behind this movie.
Yeah, he's not just an actor.
Yeah, he helped come up with the idea. He helped, like he is, all intents and purposes, a producer. Like he helped get this thing made.
And he said that this was his finest work, right?
Yes. This is the thing in his career. He has consistently said this is it. Because he had been doing Hammer horror films up to this, which are, his Dracula movies, and which I love. Those are I want to watch more of those. But this, he was like, I want to do something totally different. And this was his, turn into something completely different. Yeah. But he believed in everyone. It sounds like everyone who worked on this really believed in it and was like committed to the vision of this movie, which is why it was so heartbreaking when the studio tried, they're like, we gotta, hack this thing to bits. We're cutting out the song Gently Johnny because we don't need it. We're cutting it for time, and we're cutting content out. And we are also making it second build to the film Don't Look Now, which is weird. We were just talking about that with Donald Sutherland. The studio barely promoted it at all. They really didn't bother to advertise it. But people see this thing and it starts getting this word of mouth traction. People are like blown away by it, especially Americans. So they actually, Christopher Lee and Robin Hardy, who again is the director, they actually came to America in the 70s, like when this movie came out, to talk about it and screen it. And I think that's when it starts getting more of a following too, is they start screening it specifically in America because they figure maybe it'll get a better reception here. And weirdly it does. You would think, and if you asked me before I read anything about this movie, I would have guessed America would be way more freaked out by this movie than Britain, because I think we have the idea of Europe being a bit more lax in terms of nudity, just nudity and just, America is very Puritan. We're very afraid of naked
Well, I wonder if
bodies.
I think that's more of a continental thing.
I think that might be too.
UK, I think, is regarded as a bit more uptight than the rest of Europe.
Especially going into this, we're going right into the video nasties era.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I thought that was really bizarre. But they even said, I was reading an interview with Robin Hardy. He said, yeah, we screened this movie in the Bible Belt, and they would screen at him and Christopher Lee just road tripping around the American South, which, God, if I could just, that would be I would time travel to that and just hang out with them, and just watch The Wicker Man over and over again in like a church group. But they would screen it for church groups and like Bible studies and stuff. And they said that like Southern American Christians really took to this movie, which I thought was so weird and cool. And even though this movie is so sexed up, they were seemingly not bothered even by the Britt Eklund scene where she is, I mean, it's her body double, but she's very naked.
Well, it's only her body double half the time.
Oh, yeah.
When it's upper half.
Yeah.
That's Britt.
She was pregnant while they were filming this. I guess that's why. But I guess it's because this movie, as much as maybe if you haven't seen it recently or if you just have kind of a cursory understanding of it, you might think this is a horror movie where it's almost like the Christian, the idea of like old gods overcoming the new, or like pagan versus Christian, pagan.
Or the good guys.
Yeah, like this movie is just like objectively a celebration of these kind of like Wiccan or like traditional things, or like, old religions or like spiritual stuff. But this it's surprisingly even-handed, and the way that it discusses Christianity is also, it almost has like as much awe of it as it does these kind of like old gods or this type of Wiccan stuff.
Well, yes, for anyone unfamiliar with the story of it,
we should get into that.
A police officer from, I believe,
he's from
Scotland.
I was looking, because I was thrown off because the actor Edward Woodward is English. So I was I was like, but that doesn't make sense actually. So I looked up where the character's supposed to be from. Yeah, he's Scottish. Like he's
Scottish, but he's traveling to an island off the west coast of Scotland, like a isolated island that practices paganism. And this guy is super uptight, very Christian.
Catholic.
Is he? Oh, is it?
I mean, that's
Catholic?
also a big reason why I wanted to double check if he was supposed to be Scottish or English. I mean, I think he's supposed to be Catholic.
So yeah, it's him investigating a missing child, a missing teenage girl, and a 12 years old adolescent girl. And so he's run around this island and seeing a whole bunch of naked people and getting all offended. And then in the end, he gets burned up in the giant Wicker Man by Christopher Lee. But we were talking about this before. I am not too surprised by Christians thinking fondly of the movie, because if that's your belief and you're watching this, the movie is not overtly saying, it's not making any normative judgment of the characters or saying one is right and the other is wrong. If you're watching this as a Christian, you're watching a Christian main character who is traveling to this island and is holding steadfast in his beliefs, and then is literally, they say it, is martyred at the end by these pagans. And that's the great thing about, as Christopher Lee is like condemning him to this sacrifice, he's like, well, if what you believe is right, then congratulations, you'll be a martyr.
Yeah, I think this is from, I have all my sources for any research I did for this in the description, but I believe what I'm about to read is from a BFI article where they interview Robin Hardy. This is from like 2013, I think. But he talks about his kind of like his own religious views. And so basically, I'll just read this passage because I think it's good. The Wicker Man was not a simplistic film which depicted counterculture free spirits as heroes and uptight authorities as fools. Lord Summerisle, trendily polo-necked down with the kids. He is wearing Converse in one scene.
Lord Summerisle is Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee, yeah, I'm sorry. He's down with the kids, but still ultimately land-owning gentry is out for his own ends, his propagation of pagan belief, a handy tool for the control of his island serfs. We learn he's not actually a believer. It works to his advantage to have everyone on this island believing in the old gods. Just worked out.
Oh, is that shown in the movie that he's not a true believer? At
Yeah,
what
we
point?
can talk about that scene, but I picked up the thing is with the Wicker Man and the different cuts also is the different cuts. Sometimes I feel like this movie it gets a bit like incomprehensible. Not incomprehensible, but it can be easy to miss details and like what exactly is going on. I think in some of the longer versions, there's things that are more explicitly, laid out and explained. But yeah, Lord Summerisle is, because he says his grandfather came to the island and he realized I can farm all kinds of weird new strains of fruits and vegetables here. And
He is talking about it from a scientific standpoint.
Yeah, this is like objectively. It's like, okay, so the soil here is super like special. I can grow all kinds of cool stuff here.
The best way of accomplishing this, so it seemed to him, was to rouse the people from their apathy by giving them back their joyous old gods. And that as a result of this worship, the barren island would burgeon and bring forth fruit in great abundance.
I can get everyone to get super invested into harvesting and making this happen by like renewing an interest in the old gods. And when we see that this worship, the worship of the old gods is bringing us this harvest, then you have people who are going to buy into that, and that, continued harvest and like devotion to the gods and the belief in rituals is what's going to keep them going and motivated to keep working the land and working, keeping up the Summerisle estate is essentially what Christopher Lee says. It's a tool for him to maintain the island and to maintain their passion for harvest season and thinking it's important to work the fields and stuff. Pagans, this is BFI thing. Pagans might have more fun, but will sacrificing Howie cause the crops to succeed or fail? It remains bleakly uncertain. All we've learned perhaps is that nature cannot be controlled, people can. With religion a powerful means to an end. Don't trust anybody or believe in anything. In fact, it's all a huge, dark, existential joke. Hardy, an agnostic, describes himself as a student of comparative religion and has no particular sympathy for either side. And this is his quote, "Really, you pay your money and you take your choice." And I think that's such a cool thing about this movie. And it's something I also took away from, weirdly, Midsommar, which Midsommar feels like such a love letter to this. Midsommar is also there's so much debate over, is the ending of that, is it happy? Or who am I supposed to feel for here? It's kind of the same with this, where it's like, what am I, it's...
Yeah, no, I definitely am with the director as far as the point of view goes for, there's not really a good guy in this movie.
There's not.
The cop is... he's so stuffy and judgmental to all these people, and he's like, your gods are wrong.
Yeah.
I'm here representing the true God. You're all pagans and heathens. But then again, Christopher Lee is murdering a man.
Right.
So yeah, there's no good guys here.
Yeah, and it's just so, we fucking, what's all this then? The motion picture.
Yes.
Literally, as Miss Rose would doubtless say in her assiduous way, reproduction without sexual union. Oh, what is all this?
Dude, there's one scene. It's when he first meets Lord Summerisle in the theatrical cut, not in the final cut where he meets him earlier. But in the theatrical cut, he meets Lord Summerisle, and there is like a nuclear level just...
What?
Capital W, capital O, capital T. It's really incredible. But yeah, it's like almost, I got such similar vibes with Midsommar, where it's just like, okay, yeah, she has this new family who will, she's smiling at the end. These are people who will cry with her. These are people who will feel with her the way that these other people she has in her life won't, but at what cost? And it's the same kind of thing, where it's like, pick your poison, right? The same kind of thing.
Midsommar very much.
Oh, yes.
an homage to this. And Apostle, which we watched recently, is like the same plot.
Down to there's a missing person.
A missing young girl, right? That it's his sister, and he goes to an island where there's a religious cult to look for. It's Apostle is just another take on this.
It's so cool, like especially learning about the history of Wicker Man and its release, and it being just like buried by the studio, and it being so hard to find any like version of it to watch, period. Like the fact that it's become such an influence is kind of amazing. Actually, one of the reasons we even have a long version of it, I think the full, like the longest version that exists, is because Roger Corman, he was sent a screening of it, because the negatives for this don't exist. That like none of the dude, it sucks. And Christopher Lee, they're convinced the studio got, destroyed. Like, it's a whole thing. It's a whole rabbit hole you can go down if you want. But yeah, there's no negatives that exist of this. And by that, I mean, like, the original film is destroyed.
Yeah.
Like, anything we have now is a copy of whatever. So, which really sucks. But one of the reasons we have any copy at all of this the long one with like most of the, all the stuff in there that the director originally wanted is because Roger Corman was sent a copy to review when it came out, and he just hangs on to stuff. He's a film buff, and
especially with this many boobs in it.
Dude, this is right up his alley for sure.
Stack.
Yeah. I'm also looking here. The Roger Corman print is where that's how we have Gently Johnny, like, or else that song just wouldn't exist.
Wow.
Yeah. They're also apparently, and this is how I know I watched the second longest version and not the longest version, is the longest one has a whole opening before he goes to the island where it's him with his cop, like, not friends because they're dicks to him, but it's him when he gets the assignment.
Are they dicks to him because he's so Christian?
Yes.
Of course.
And actually, it's interesting that longer version, we have an opening scene where, one, he gets the assignment, so he learns about Rowan and this island, and two, he overhears two of these other cops being like, if he's dating any girl, like, she's gonna spend longer on her knees in church than with him, and just shit like fucking lad cop shit. But yeah, they're so we get it instantly confirmed that he's a virgin, or that he's at least sex-averse and very,
because that's a necessary part of his sacrifice at the end. He has to have gone there willingly, which I take issue with because they fucked with his plane.
He did fuck with his
He
plane.
tried to leave, and they trapped him there, and they're like, "You're here willingly."
I mean, they did say, well, I forget who. There's like a guy with a fucking paddle boat. He can row you to the mainland, but it'll take you. So everyone
take you he said 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think that was
not a real
actually an
suggestion. But he had to be willing, and he had to be a virgin. So earlier when Britt Eklund is trying to make him come hither, and he doesn't. If he had just slept with Britt Eklund, he'd be fine.
Yeah.
But
I think that's also why in just that theatrical cut, they're like, let's just get to that Britt Eklund song first. She tries to seduce him. He doesn't want it. It explains I don't believe in it before marriage. I'm pretty sure he's not married. At least, I think it does an okay job. You get what's going on.
Yeah, he literally says I don't believe in it before marriage.
Yeah, and we don't have any evidence that he's married or,
Britt Eklund is her voice is dubbed over by two different women, one for the singing voice, who I wasn't familiar with. But did you notice who dubbed her speaking voice?
I bet
Chelsea?
this was something I had learned and then forgot. Fuck.
Oh no. You did not bring this up, and I just learned it right before we started rolling.
Cheer up. Food isn't everything in life,
Her speaking voice was dubbed over by Annie Ross, who we just saw in Basket Case 2.
Oh my god!
Yes, Granny Ruth from Basket Case 2 and 3. The little sex pistol as she was.
Dude, is she the one who we were reading her Wikipedia and
Lenny Bruce?
Yeah, she dated Lenny Bruce and stuff.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And she was she dubbed over Britt Eklund's voice.
There's something about how I think we've said like Christopher Lee is one where you're like they don't make men like that anymore, and they truly don't. Like you can't live a Christopher Lee level life. You just can't. That involves being drafted into like the Great War and war.
Yeah,
it's not a thing. It's not a thing. There's women like her age too, where you read about them and their life is just they've dated all kinds of weird people, and that they just had the craziest fucking time ever.
Yeah.
And wow, you just can't help but be in awe of.
I know. Now I want to listen back to Britt Eklund's parts and hear her voice.
Yeah.
That's weird.
That's incredible. Wow. Okay.
And I'm just assuming it was dubbed over because Britt Eklund, she's Swedish,
yeah.
so I'm assuming the accent was too heavy.
Yeah, I'm sure it's just because, it's supposed to be this tiny
isolated.
Scottish island, and then you got like the Swedish chef role. Like, it's just, Because is she just herself in Bond?
I don't recall. And also on that note, because I can't remember, I just want to say maybe Man with a Golden Gun isn't one of the better ones. I don't want any Bond fans to be like, no, that one is shitty.
Well, this isn't a Bond podcast. So.
Yeah. I just know, it's better than Moonraker and Diamonds Are Forever. It has to be, so don't get on me.
Moonraker is...
Shit, yeah.
Which one's the one with like all the crazy underwater stuff, though?
Are you thinking of Thunderball?
I don't know.
that spends 2/3 of its move.
That is the one I was like, Moonraker
yeah.
can't be bad. It's all underwater. No, it's not that one.
No, that's Thunderball.
This is how little I know about James Bond. Hey, I want to talk to you about our sponsor this week, HelloFresh. So let's say that you're a certain Lord Summer Isle and you maybe sacrifice a guy to guarantee that there's a good harvest next year, only you know that that's not really actually real. You're just doing it to kind of maintain control over your island, and you realize that, oh, oops, if you don't have a good harvest next year, the people on your island might turn on you. Well, maybe you could just order a subscription to HelloFresh and have fresh produce and food supplies delivered to your estate. And you can pretend it's from some harvest god or the sun god or whatever. And then problem solved. HelloFresh meal kit delivery service. Fresh food and fresh ingredients delivered straight to you. James and I love HelloFresh. It makes cooking so much easier. Neither of us have the time to cook. I personally don't really have the desire to cook, and I'm lucky I have a partner who does, or else I don't even know what I would be eating day to day. But it's easy, and right now it's safe. Anytime you can avoid going to the store, it's a good choice to do so. It's nice to get stuff delivered, especially fresh stuff. It can be hard to find fresh stuff that, you don't have to go to the store to actually get. And it's sustainable too. You actually end up with less food waste because everything is pre-proportioned for you. And that not only makes cooking and prep easier, you don't end up buying too much of a single ingredient that you never end up using. And it's flexible too. You can change your delivery schedule really easily and pick what days you get everything delivered, which is nice. And you can skip a week whenever. They're great to work with. So if you want to try HelloFresh, you can go to hellofresh.com/deadmeat90 and use code deadmeat90 to get $90 off, including free shipping. So again, that is hellofresh.com/deadmeat90 and use code deadmeat90 to get $90 off, including free shipping. HelloFresh.
What's your favorite song?
Oh, I think
There's so many.
Gently Johnny's my favorite. Like the first time I watched
What's
it.
your favorite song from the theatrical cut?
Oh, jeez.
Because the first song they hit us with is talking about how sexy the tavern keeper's daughter is.
I'm sorry, you're forgetting one of the best fucking bangers of all time.
Sorry, I am.
Corn rigs and barley rigs and corn rigs are bonny.
Corn rigs?
Corn rigs and barley rigs and... Yeah.
What are corn rigs?
I think it's just like farming corn. Actually, I'm gonna Google what a corn rig is.
Because he's talking about corn rigs and barley rigs.
And barley rigs.
And then something about them being bonny.
They're bonny. They're beautiful.
What the bonny?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very Scottish.
Man. Yeah.
Let me just also, while we're on,
watch this one with subtitles.
I highly recommend to watch this. Especially you can read the lyrics and that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I'll say while we're talking about the music, all the music done by an Italian composer and songwriter. I don't know how he does such an amazing job just capturing this. I mean, I'm not Scottish, so I can't say, but to me, I'm like, yes, this is authentic. I'm like a tourist watching this. You know, if you go somewhere and you're like, this is such authentic, like Chinese food or whatever. It's like, you would have no fucking
Olive
idea.
Garden, like,
yeah.
God, this
That's
exquisite
me.
Italian
I'm like, oh, this
cuisine.
is such authentic Scottish folk music. I'm finding like, okay, I think a corn rig is like it's like a ridge or it's a ridge or strip of growing barley or other grains.
Are you sure that's not barley rig?
I don't know. I can't go down this Wikipedia because I'm just gonna want to sit here and read about what barley rigs are, and that's not what people signed up for when they. You're not like tuning into a horror podcast to listen to me read out the Wikipedia page of barley rigs and how barley is farmed.
Well, they were just hearing about Bond movies. So
that can be for the
Bond and
Patreon
Barley podcast now.
That can be for the Patreon. I'll just read about corn rigs.
There you go.
But yeah, Paul Giovanni. I forget if I mentioned his name. He actually he's in the movie. He's one of the people playing instruments in the tavern, and I'm not sure if it's him singing, but in the movie he's singing Gently Johnny.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know if that's actually him. Oh no, it does say he did lyrics and he sings in the okay.
All right.
And
So
he also sings corn rigs.
Oh. Well, there you go. He's all over this.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, the landlord's daughter or whatever is the first.
Oh, I love the landlord's
diegetic
daughter.
song, and that's basically a whole tavern singing about how you should have sex with Britt Eklund.
And when her name is mentioned,
the parts of every gentleman do stand up at attention.
And she's standing there the whole time being like, that's me.
That's her job. I mean, that's actually part of that Gently Johnny scene that's cut. That's what happens is Christopher Lee brings over who is like a 14-year-old maybe boy.
He looks young.
He's a boy. And he brings him over and it's this ritual where Britt Eklund, I think, just takes the virginities of all the young men on the island, because he even says like, oh, another sacrifice to the goddess Aphrodite, and he offers her this young boy. And so that's why I think they're all singing about fucking the landlord, because like, yeah, that's her job. That's what she does.
And then she has a song, I forget what it's called.
It's just called it's Willow Song.
Please come, say how do the things I'll show to you.
Oh, it's just Willow Song? You said it was frequently covered.
Yeah, Willow Song. Any song from this movie, I think Willow Song is the one where I personally have seen the most covers of it, either on YouTube or just, like folk artists will do covers of it.
I like it. She's like knocking on the wall as part of the rhythm section.
Yeah, it's so
fun.
funny. I actually was going through this is totally related, I promise. But I was going through, so Gorillaz used to do this thing where they would take over, like, I think it was iTunes, like, or some, like, it might have been a Spotify thing. I don't know, some, like, big streaming service, and they would do these, like, pirate radio things. It was during Plastic Beach, and they play Willow Song was on one of the playlists. I was going through it, like, a few months ago, and was, like, very pleasantly surprised to see it there. So I think that's the most known song from this is that.
This is a tune from one of my favorite films, The Wicker Man. In this movie, it was actually sung by a lovely young chanteuse by the name of Britt Eklund. I do miss England.
There's the what's the song with the kids?
Oh, the Maypole song. We got the mouth harp and the boing, boing. We're learning about the and it's interesting that this song is kind of about the like cycle of birth, death.
And on that bed there was a girl, and on that girl there was a man, and from that man there was a seed, and from that seed there was a boy, and from that boy there was a man, and for that man there was a grave, and from that grave there grew a tree.
And this is why Robin Hardy has said that Christians also took really well to this movie, is using that parallel and also discussing the resurrection and, just the similarities and differences between those two beliefs.
Like
and
reincarnation versus resurrection.
Exactly. Yeah. is really interesting and neat, and how those beliefs are, just what we think happens after we die and just outlooks on, what we see as a sacred burial site or a graveyard, they see as like the gross side of death, where they're like, it sucks that like a rotting body has to be part of this.
The children find it far easier to picture reincarnation than resurrection. Those rotting bodies are a great stumbling block for the childish imagination.
That's why they keep the bodies in the churchyard. Like, it's the part where it's the most clearly Christian, and it's just they're weird. It's where they keep it's like their like containment area for like any Christian influences left on that island.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat.
But there's a rabbit in well, she's not dead, it turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing is, he's there looking for Rowan, this missing girl, but he, as it turns out, he was, their target the whole time, and he basically chases the rabbit down the rabbit hole. He's chasing the rabbit, and she was never actually dead. He thinks they're gonna sacrifice her
because the year that she was the May Queen was a failed harvest.
Their crops failed, yeah.
Which was legit. That did happen.
Yeah.
But apparently the solution to that is to sacrifice someone like him, not to sacrifice the May Queen. And that's why she like leads him there too. She's like, "Come with me."
Yeah,
when he finds her at the
that's
end.
when she's like, "Oh, Mr. Police, Mr. Police, I gave you all the clues." This movie is extremely Mr. Police, I gave you all the clues. But instead of that fucking little snowman, it's like Christopher Lee, like in front of the Wicker Man. But yeah, she's like, "Oh, come this way," and man, that's it's fucked.
It was weird watching this after having watched the remake and Apostle and Midsummer. So it was like I knew everything that was happening, but I had never seen it before. It was a very strange experience.
It's weird how, because I don't know why, for some reason it didn't really hit home for me the first time. I think because there's just so much to take in. What we were debating earlier, and it must be something that you blink and you miss it, or that maybe it's hard to kind of absorb the first time, is that Christopher Lee is a non-believer. Like he's using this belief system as a means to an end, and man, that makes the ending so much fucking scarier to me. The fact that and how he knows that Christopher Lee doesn't believe this.
And I love the way Christopher Lee plays it.
God,
because he never lets his face reveal that he's at all concerned, but you can kind of see that he's like thinking like, shut the fuck up, Howie. Because especially as Howie, the police officer, I love that his last act as a fuck you to Christopher Lee is like, all right, hey, everyone who's doing this to me right now, if they fail again, you're going to need a bigger sacrifice, and you got to go after this guy. And you take, like, Christopher Lee is just like,
might have made some mistakes.
Yeah.
Maybe made some mistakes. Yeah, just the fact that which I love too. And yeah, you totally can see. It's like, it's like when you see someone smiling but it doesn't reach their eyes. It's the same kind of, you can start to see him realize, oh man, this might end really poorly.
Yeah, because he's still fronting as like, no, the crops will be fine. Yeah. And like, this is no need for that. But we're all thinking, and he's thinking, oh fuck, next year if that happens, they're gonna remember this.
It's such a good, it's such a good. Oh, I love that.
That's why I said I want to see like a shitty early '90s sequel to The Wicker Man, where it's the next year and the crops have failed again, and Lord Summerisle is like the protagonist now, as the rest of the town tries to hunt him down.
And then they like can't get Paul Giovanni to do music for some reason, and Christopher Lee's like, I do metal now, and I'll do the music.
Black metal, fucking, it's great.
God, I really miss Christopher Lee.
I know. Continuing with the songs, then there's a fertility song with a bunch of
is it the ladies jumping over the fire?
The topless ladies jumping over the fire.
Yeah, and that's because that's right before we meet Lord Summerisle for the first time in the theatrical version, where he explains, This is when the Howie drops the biggest watch of all time. But Christopher Lee is like, are you not refreshed by the sight of young people enjoying themselves? And Howie's just like, no, I am not refreshed. And just, he's
like, why aren't they wearing clothes? And Christopher Lee's like, well, it'd be dangerous to jump through fire with clothes on.
Yeah, and just him, Christopher Lee calmly explaining we're a very religious people, and Howie, who just can't, like...
He's like, no, what? But you're not religious?
But they are naked.
His brain absolutely breaking in this scene. It's just, poor Howie.
Christopher Lee sings a little ditty.
Oh my God.
Piano.
And I edited that into our other Wicker Man podcast just because I could, because we also had a minute in that just dedicated to Christopher Lee.
Oh, that's
and
right.
How he did 100% achievement.
He 100% in life, and if you need to hear
yeah.
why and
Just
how,
go back to that.
go listen to the other Wicker Man podcast.
Fuck. But yeah, he sings with his like partner, and I don't think I just can't see them being married, and I'm just assuming they're, partners in this. Him and the school teacher.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I had a hard time telling her apart from the other, a librarian or something. And I honestly almost would have, if it weren't for Brett Eklund being Brett Eklund.
Sure, yeah.
I would have had a hard time telling all those blonde ladies apart.
Yeah.
Because at the end, they're all standing next to each other, and I was like, there's more than one?
Yeah, this movie has a type. You're like, if a movie can have a type, this one has a type for sure. And it's very Swedish blonde women. But yeah, he's playing the piano and singing this song, and that fucking, just that
voice.
Fair maid, says he, your kettle's cracked. The cause is plainly told. There hath so many nails been drove, mine own could not take hold.
But we do, yeah, you can tell when he's playing the piano that, yeah, he's wearing a kilt.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting there thinking, do we get to see I forget if we see like a long shot and we get to see the kilt. And I really hope we do. And we do. We get a nice like wide shot, and it's Christopher Lee just looking really, really good in that kilt.
And then I can't remember if there were any other songs before the end.
I mean, there's some like, I think some instrumental stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, all these other songs are characters breaking
singing,
out into
yeah.
song.
It's wonderful. It's such a, like, that was what because I had no idea going into watching this the first time. All I knew was it's what this remake's based on, and there's the big Wicker Man at the end, and Christopher Lee's in it. Great. And the fact that there were all of a sudden there's songs, and I thought, okay, we're getting this tavern song, the Landlords. I'm like, okay, I could see that being
songs, yeah,
okay, but then there were just more songs.
Brit starts singing,
yes,
yeah.
And it just realizing what this was very, very exciting, and that's when I just fell so hard in love with
do you have a favorite song?
Oh yeah, from the theater. I mean, Willow Song is so good.
I would say Willow Song.
It's so good. Especially with her thumping on the wall, and that's the drum beat in the song, and it's just so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so mystical. Like it just, I don't know. It's like such a fairy tale the way she sings it. Like she sings about how she's a young maid and she's young and fair. And what I think is cool too, and what I appreciated more the second time, and it's stuff that I'm glad to see, I think, would have been in this original cut, was like, you also get the emphasis of ritual, not only with the pagan stuff. I mean, that's all very obvious. The whole thing is Howie he's Flanders in that gif of him with the two ladies, or not Flanders, I'm sorry, Smithers. That's him this whole movie. But so he's overwhelmed by ritual this whole time. But then we get to see some like flashbacks of him in church, and we see him leading mass, and specifically the part of mass that he's leading is communion, which is the weirdest part of Catholicism, especially
transmutation.
Yeah, and I love that I just something that just kind of like slipped by me. Again, a lot to take in this movie, but being able to watch it again, I just thought it's such a deliberate choice to see Howie specifically leading the weirdest Catholic ritual, and specifically Catholic because, like you just mentioned, in Catholicism,
well, it's the most by weirdest, it's like the most supernatural.
Yes, it's the most mystical and the most otherworldly and the most magical. Like, it straight up is magic. It's and I mean, fucking, that's why that's one of the biggest differences between Catholicism and Protestantism is in Catholicism, when you are doing communion and you say, this is my body, it literally is. It transforms. You are doing magic. Like how he's holding the bread and doing fucking magic. I think that's such a cool touch to like the thing we see him doing in his past before he comes here is this part of Catholicism that is genuinely very creepy. And it is also the part of Catholicism that involves sacrifice. It involves the murder of a person to guarantee entry into heaven or guarantee salvation
and further life, eternal life.
I love like the focus on that specifically because it's like
the idea that Jesus is like equivalent to him,
he's
someone
eating
being
his body,
sacrificed.
he's transforming bread into literal body and wine into literal blood and consuming those things to gain entry into heaven and to have his souls. It's
and
I
guess that's
thing.
kind of similar to like with the Maypole song, how it's singing about how people's bodies literally become food and sustenance for other people.
And those parallels are why, again,
and those parallels come to a crashing head in that final scene because Christopher Lee and the island folk are singing their pagan rituals while at the same time Howie is reciting, I saw Psalm 23.
The Lord is my shepherd. Fuck, it's
so it's just
good.
them singing.
The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He leads me down
the lead up to him realizing he's gonna be sacrificed. He is put in the Christ position. He is gonna be the martyr. It's him screaming at everyone, none of this is real. Like words coming out of his mouth specifically, such a Catholic guy who, as Catholics, it's like you place belief in ritual and its symbols and stuff and magic. Like Catholicism has all kinds of weird stuff other sects of Christianity don't. And it's like this guy who, we see buys into the idea of like certain objects are sacred and certain, like just everything is so imbued with power and magic and otherworldliness. Then yelling, it's just like none of this is real. None of this is gonna, I don't know. It's very chilling almost to hear this man of faith like yelling, who we know believes so much in this equally bizarre series of rituals and beliefs, and that finally coming out of his mouth and him realizing like everyone on the island is just as bought into their beliefs as you are to yours. You like nothing could shake his faith. We see that he is like, we see him in the Wicker Man. He's praying. He still believes in God. He doesn't believe, even though this is happening to him, his belief isn't shaken. He's a man of faith to the end. And it's just the horror maybe of him realizing everyone here is just as faithful as me. And there's nothing I can do about it. And that's so scary.
Yeah.
Can we just talk about how, even though I'd already seen this, and like it's the thing if you know the Wicker Man, is there's gonna be a fucking Wicker Man and it's gonna get burnt. But I think this whole sequence is just like God tier horror. It is like top tier filmmaking in that it is such a scary moment, and it's not a jump. It's not a tip. It's not what you would think is like a traditional horror movie scare. But like the cut where we see Howie and he yells,
"Oh God! Oh Jesus Christ!"
and it cuts to it's the first time you see it. That whole like sequence, him yelling, his delivery of that line,
no,
like
Jesus,
sends
no.
chills down my spine.
Yeah.
And his eyes when he sees it before we do, and the cut to, it's like, it's still like it. I don't know. I'm like chilled by it. I'm like, I'm like getting goosebumps just thinking about it. It's such a good. It's still scary.
Yeah. The last shot was what I found super awesome because they were talking about the sun and the god of the sun and everything, and somehow they just have this last shot where it's the head of this giant Wicker Man burning, and then it falls and behind it is the sun setting at that point.
Yeah. So yeah.
Such a good,
It's
and then it's
so
just the
good.
end.
Yeah, fuck, it's such powerful filmmaking. And if you also, that shot of the sun when you think like, oh, they're offering him to the sun god, and you think like, you know, Robin Hardy has said he's coming at this movie from like a pretty agnostic point of view. There's also something about the sun is like this uncaring, you know, ultimately it's this the sun doesn't give a shit. It's the sun, and the idea of just this so much meaning and so much loss put into this moment for a thing that, even though these people believe there's a sun god, ultimately it's just this uncaring, unfeeling object, and that's the last thing you see, and that also just really is spooky to me. Yeah, something about that, just the uncaring universe, I guess. Yeah, God, I love this movie.
Christopher Lee is dressed as a lady in the
we should
parade.
talk about the lead up to the whole sequence at the end, because it's their May Day celebration, and they keep warning him like, you better get out of here before we do, or else you're gonna be extra. Are you offended?
He tries, and his plane doesn't work.
That's right. So he's like, there's gonna be too many boobies. I need to get out of here.
He's trying to get away from the boobs.
He's trying to, again, he is Smithers backed into the corner by dancing ladies. It's too much. But the May Day celebrations, and that's when because he kind of goes to their library and reads about May Day stuff. Again, we gotta love our horror movie library research montage. It's a staple. So he learns all about the tradition of May Day and how there's always the leading this procession to what ultimately is like the sacrifice at the end of the festival. You have it's like the man woman, I think they phrase it as
the man horse, the hobby horse,
the man horse, and the man fool.
Yeah,
a man animal or hobby horse who canters at the head of the procession, charging at the girls. A man woman, the sinister teaser, played by the community leader or priest. And a man fool, Punch, most complex of all the symbolic figures. The privileged simpleton and king for a day.
There's something I really love about Christopher Lee helping to come up with this movie and being like, yes, I will be the man woman leading the procession.
What's the matter with you, McGregor? Do you call that dancing? Cut some capers, man.
He's like into it, and he's chiding Howie, who is dressed as the fool. He knows at that point it is Howie because it's all a setup.
It's a great twist.
But he's just like, you call that dancing? Like, he just wants everything to be up to his standards. Like, he cares so much about how good everyone's dancing and everyone trying their best. And he just has this really long wig on and
very pale makeup on,
and he's like very just straight faced, like he's dancing so seriously.
He is, yeah,
and it's so funny.
He's very precise in his kicks and his arm movements. It's great.
Gosh, he's so good.
He's just this 6'5" guy dressed up like a lady dancing down the road. It's great.
Yeah, with like a sickle, I think, in one, or a scythe. It's so fun. I do love the little ritual before the actual sacrifice, where it's that horrible cursed version of musical chairs.
Oh yeah, with the swords making up. Pentagram or like a six-sided star.
Someone will yell at me. It's not a pentagram. Like, I've made that mistake on the podcast.
They make a star.
They make a star shape
with
I don't remember how many points the star has. Is that
but
good?
They're all like linked together with a hole in the middle, and then people pop their head up. And then the music keeps going. They keep going, and then when the music stops, they close the swords.
Yeah, and it chops it chops their head off.
But it was just a costume head of a little girl.
It's all a bit. It's a lot of fun.
It's a great.
But
thing,
it is
though.
terrifying.
I want to see a horror movie where that's done for reals.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
If you are interested in this movie, and I'm just realizing, I hope this episode was listenable.
Well, we didn't go through the plot, but that's fine. Go watch the movie and then listen to the episode and hear all the other stuff.
Recapping the plot of this would be awful to listen to. Just go watch it, because again, it's this plot is, you explain it the wrong way and it's basically incomprehensible. There's just a lot going on. But yeah, if you want to seek it out, try and find The final.
The final cut, which should be about 95 minutes.
It's about, yeah.
Yeah. Although
That's another cool thing. Nice, breezy.
That's the other
hour
thing.
and a half.
Yep.
I need pretty much all versions of it. You know, it's still like under 2 hours. Love it.
Yeah.
And it feels longer, not in a bad way, but in a way where just the scale of the story it gives you and just like the emotional, you know, peaks that it hits. It feels like it should be a longer movie, and it's impressive that it does that much with the time that it has. And
yeah, and if you're into folk music at all, like 60s and early 70s folk music, you're in for a treat.
I would say, and again, it's funny, people have, you know, thought I would be into The Love Witch, and I very much did not like that. But this is like the era of filmmaking, this kind of like weird occult early 70s. Like if you like The Love Witch and you want to actually watch something that is that kind of vibe, this is a movie that I would say is in that kind of
you'll probably enjoy
zone.
it.
It's not as highly designed, I don't think, as The Love Witch. I mean, few movies actually are, but it's still just the preoccupation with witchcraft and just creepy shit.
More nudity, if you can believe it.
Yes, definitely.
Although Love Witch had plenty.
Lots of nudity in this. This is and I said this on Twitter, but I'll just say it again here. This is, to paraphrase We Hate Movies, this is a what are you watching movie, where if someone walks in, they're going to be confused. It's just a heads up. Cool. But yeah, I hope this episode is listenable at all. I just got very excited about like learning about just the story behind this movie and its release, and just what a struggle it was to have it even exist at all. And now here we are this many years later, and it's so influential and like although I will say it is a bummer when I mention this movie and people only know the Nicolas. I think I will say, like, among horror fans, this original is beloved and rightfully so, but I think generally people just know that remake.
They don't know about this at all. Yeah.
Really sad.
Well, that's why we're here.
Yeah, show the original to your friends, and
we did. The Grassos, they live
with us. It's all cool. We're not having. Yeah, we're cool. But
yeah, they enjoyed it. We'll be back next week with another episode of sorts. And in the meantime, you can follow Dead Meat on social media at Dead Meat James on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm at Carebeck, CarevEccc, on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want merch, deadmeatstore.com.
Yeah, and feel free to email suggestions and feedback to deadmeatpod@gmail.com. And until next time, I'm James.
I'm Chelsea.
This has been the Dead Meat Podcast.
And corn rigs are bunny. Do, 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 do.